Welcome to GeekTheoCast, everybody, where we explore timeless values presented in, at least this week, 90's movies.
Yep.
And how they align with biblical teachings.
Yep.
I'm Steven.
And I'm Jason, and this week we're discussing themes of overcoming adversity and personal growth as portrayed in three iconic 90's movies. Forrest Gump.
Oh, boy.
Quack, 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 quack. That's right. The Mighty Ducks.
There you go.
And, of course, Good Will Hunting.
So such a good movie.
Oh, yeah. So, of course, we're going to see how these values also reflect biblical principles.
These movies not only entertained us, but also taught us important biblical lessons about resilience, self-belief, and the power of support systems. Let's start with probably my most hated movie, Forrest Gump.
Oh,
I really do not like this movie.
Word. One of my best friends and I would watch this movie like all the time. It was so funny. This is one of those movies.
I hate this movie.
That it's hard to see anyone else play the character of Forrest Gump than Tom Hanks.
I'll agree to that. Yeah.
You know, like there's just some characters some actors that just do it so perfect. And this was one of them. Life is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're going to get.
Uh-huh.
Jenny, I may not be a smart man, but I know what love is. Anyways, again, so many. Well, of course, this movie is a remarkable tale of a man with a low IQ who, despite his perceived limitation, achieves incredible things through perseverance, kindness, and an optimistic look.
Absolutely. One of the key messages of Forrest Gump is that success isn't about intelligence or talent alone, for that matter. Although talent had a big part of it in ping pong. Just saying.
Yeah.
It's about heart, determination, and faith. This aligns with Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Now, before we move on to Jason's next spiel, it's important we talk about context for that verse. Because if you look at the context in Philippians 4:4 says, rejoice in the Lord always. Can I say rejoice? And in everything, let prayer and petition to the God of Most High, and a peace be all understanding will be upon you. Then it goes on a couple more verses, and we get Philippians 4:13. What 4:13 is saying is, through God, I can do everything that is in accordance with His will.
Yeah, it means I can face any situation.
Yep.
Paul says, I know what it is to be hungry, and I know what it is to be full. I know what it is to be secure, and I know what it is to be insecure. Insecure. I understand what it's like to be loved. I understand what it's like to be hated. He's saying, I understand all this stuff. And yet, no matter what, I can face anything, just exactly like what we're saying. His Forrest journey shows us that life's challenges can be overcome by focusing on what we can control and trusting in a higher power. His simple faith and good-heartedness reminds me of Matthew 18:3. Jesus says, truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven.
Let's not forget about his relationship with Jenny. Despite all struggles, Forrest's unwavering love and loyalty towards her mirrors the biblical concept of unconditional love, similar to 1 Corinthians 13:7. I'm really starting to hate that chapter. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things.
Yeah. His life is a testament to the power of resilience and faith. His story encourages us to face our challenge with a positive attitude and trust in God's plan, even when it doesn't make sense. And I have to say one thing I really I remembered from the movie is how Mama was always there.
Yep.
I remember when he was in like elementary school, and the principal, the teachers were like, he's too dumb. He's not gonna get this. He doesn't like. We can't take him. And his mom fought for him. His mom taught him early on, fight for yourself. Do whatever you can to overcome adversity. And he did. We see him in college. We see him when he goes off to the war. We see him post-war. You know, all this stuff. He faced adversity, and yet he came through on the other side just like us.
Yep.
So now, speaking of resilience, let's go to a classic movie.
Oh, I love this movie.
The Mighty Ducks.
Okay. First of all, I want to talk about how great this movie actually is.
Okay.
I love this movie. It's about a ragtag youth hockey team that, against all odds, learns to work together and becomes champions. I looked it up because I was genuinely curious.
Okay.
Apparently, when the Olympics happened, the Winter Olympics happened back in 92, 94, whatever, they actually had a junior Olympic hockey team.
Okay.
So that part was actually true. Like, that actually happened.
Okay.
Not the Mighty Ducks, but all these teams actually had a thing. I could be wrong, though. It's been years since I've looked it up. But I think that was actually a thing.
Interesting.
That movie, in all three of the movies, each had their own quirks, each had their own issues, but a lot of that movie was stories of transformation of the characters and teamwork, from Cotton Eye Joe over here using his lasso from Texas. Wait, I gotta do it right. Using his lasso from Texas, playing some games and adding to a new Bash brother and just hog ties them, y'all.
Yeah. You know, we have Emilio Estevez, who was Coach Gordon Bombay. You know, he took on the team as a punishment, but he ended up discovering his own passion and purpose, you know. It reminds us of, you know, the transformation that we read about in Romans. You know, we know all things. God works together for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. He takes the situation, even situations we get ourselves into.
Yeah.
We face the consequences, and yet God can take that, our consequences, what we're facing, and still use it towards his good.
Yeah. The Ducks kind of start as like the underdogs, famous setbacks, numerous setbacks actually, but through persistence they learn the value of teamwork and friendship. The similar to two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. That's in Ecclesiastes 4:9 through 10. I'm going to kind of come to that full circle. Just give me a second. It's kind of like me and your relationship. One of my things I fail at is especially with my ADHD, is I get bored of something and I'm just like, oh, I'm bored. Yay. I want to do something else, but me and you hold each other accountable, because like when you're bored of this stuff, I go, yo, Jason, we gotta get this done, let's go.
Yeah.
And it kind of brings it back full circle, and we kind of sharpen each other with that, which makes it a great team.
Yeah. We need that
accountability.
Yeah, exactly. We balance each other's out.
Yep.
We balance each other out. Yeah. You know, it also teaches about leadership and redemption. Again, going back to Coach Bombay and his journey, you know, he's this self-centered lawyer. he only cares about himself. And he learns to be a coach. He becomes dedicated, and he cares deeply about his team. You know, it's such a wonderful reminder of growth and redemption. You know, when we find that one thing to kind of bring us here, you know, it's just like I'm reminded of stories of people who they're, you know, like guys, they're wild partiers, and then they get a girl pregnant, and all of a sudden this baby comes, and like that they change because they realize I have to be responsible, and they change their life. And you know, it is personal growth and redemption. You know, just like Zacchaeus had an encounter. Zacchaeus was a wee little man, and a wee little man was he. Anyways, you know, he was a tax collector, he was a thief, and he had this one encounter with Jesus, and all of a sudden his life changed. He changed his life, you know. He just it was amazing. Is what I'm trying to say.
You know, all the ducks themselves, each with their own unique struggles and backgrounds, learn to support each other, support one another, and work a cohesive unit. In D2, Gordon Bombay thinks he's a big shot, and everybody comes around him and goes, "Yo, you're not that guy. Like, stop pretending to be that guy." And Hans comes in and talks to Gordon and changes him and, you know, supports him. And they change back into this cohesive unit. This unity and support reflect Galatians 6:2. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ.
Yeah. It shows us that with determination, support, a willingness to grow, we can overcome any obstacle. You know, I'll be honest, I remember D1 and I remember D3, but I don't remember D2 as much.
You need to go back and watch it.
That's probably the one that I've seen the least.
You need to go back and watch it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. But it's such a great, like, trilogy. And I know they, a couple years ago, Disney came out with a series.
Oh, that's a fantastic series.
So I'll have to see that. I think that has Lauren Graham in it, which she's pretty good. Yeah, Lorelai.
And Emilio Estevez.
Oh, okay, sweet. Anyways,
the original coach.
Yes. All right. So with all that, now let's get to a more intense movie, Good Will Hunting.
Okay, let's talk about this movie for a second. This movie, me and you were reading a book called Wild at Heart.
Yep.
And this particular, if I remember right, the chapter was on fatherhood. And
I think so.
And talking about the wound that was left by your dad. Because every dad, no matter what, leaves a wound, intentionally or unintentionally.
Yep.
And like I talked about my dad earlier, my dad was not around. My dad was a workaholic. He did his best with what he could. That doesn't mean he was perfect. He still made mistakes. But a synopsis is you have this man who's a genius, who starts off as a janitor at MIT. And he struggles with his past and self-worth until Robin Williams helps this man with his past and issues of self-worth.
Yeah.
The movie explores themes of personal growth, healing, and the impact of relationships. But what it also does is it talks about a friendship that's brutally honest with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, Will's journey is a profound one. He's incredibly intelligent. If I'm not mistaken, he walks into one of the math classrooms and there's this big...
It was in the hallway.
Oh, that's what it was. It was this big equation, and he just solved it. And they're like, who did this? And they finally discover it's him. You know, he's very intelligent. And yet he's, like you said, he's battling these deep-seated fears and trauma, you know. And he needs someone's supportive. He needs a supportive relationship to help him grow. You had kind of alluded it to earlier, you know, in Proverbs, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. We need each other.
Mm-hmm.
We need someone to come along, and especially when we're stuck in a rut, to kind of get us out or just give us that support.
The turning point for Will is when he met therapist Sean McGuire, again, Robin Williams, who helps him confront his past and belief in his own worth. This mirrors the biblical principle of healing and transformation through love and understanding, as seen in James 5:16. Therefore, confess your sins to one another and pray for each other so that you may be healed. The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective.
Yeah. You know, thanks to Sean's persistent belief in Will, because of Sean's persistent belief in Will, even though Will is very resistant, excuse me, it's a powerful example of mentorship and the impact it can have on someone's life. You know, we need someone, again, we need someone older or, you know, wiser, someone that has traveled the road before to kind of help guide us, to help lead us as we go. It's exactly what he had. You know, anyways, which reminds us of Paul and Timothy's relationship. You know, he provided guidance and support for Timothy. You know, he told him, don't really, I know what that says, but he says, don't let anyone look down on you because you're young. Instead, be an example.
Yeah.
Paul could say that to Timothy because he's been there. He's been there before. He says, I understand. So now, let me teach you how to manage your relationship with God, how to be a leader, to lead a church.
Yeah. You know, speaking about Timothy, I love when it says in 2 Timothy 1:7, the Spirit of God gave us, does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline. Or another translation, a sound mind.
Yeah.
Will's growth also involves letting go of his self-destructive behavior and embracing his potential. Similar to the biblical call to renew our minds and transform our lives, as seen in Romans 12:2. Do not concern yourself with this world. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Listen, this includes... I'm gonna be real for a second here. This includes pornography. This includes witchcraft. This includes deceit, lies.
Yep.
This includes slander. This includes debauchery.
Mm-hmm.
This includes, you know, everything that does not bring us closer to God.
Yeah.
And when we have addictions, such as, let's be honest, pornography does, that's hard to let go. That becomes your golden calf.
Yep.
And I made a sermon for that. And it's interesting what Exodus said they did to the golden calf. They put it in the water.
They grounded it up, put it in the water. Yep.
Put it in the water. And one of the commentaries on that says because they and then Moses made them drink it.
Yep.
And the reason they did that is Moses did that. One commentary says because he wanted them to acknowledge how worthless their idol actually was, that it was going to become fecal matter for them, which is interesting in itself.
Poo poo.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of things of these world in this world that we need to let go of, and we need to be cautious about.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have to go live under a rock. We don't have to go live in a convent. We don't have to go live, become Amish or whatever. Like, we don't have to do any of that. But we have got to make sure, that we're very careful, And sometimes many times it takes someone else to come along to help us to see that, hey, what you're doing is destructive. I love you. I need you to stop. And I will be your accountability partner. I will do whatever I can to help you out. But ultimately, it's your choice. Do not be conformed to the pattern of this world. Just like you said, we have to be transformed by the Lord. So Goodwill Hunting teaches us that no matter how broken we feel, with the right support and a willingness to face our fears, we can grow and fulfill our potential. Again, the power of others, So we're going to get to some questions.
Yep.
If we can.
All right. First question. How do you think the theme of perseverance in one of your favorite movies, Forrest Gump, can be applied in our daily lives?
Yeah. In our daily lives, just practicing it means to just trust in God's plan, even when it seems difficult. When we face adversity, just push on, just keep going. That may be something simple as I am stuck in traffic and I am just very perturbed right now. You know what? Be persistent and just be like, you know what, God, I've got a car that works. I'm able to afford the gas, that's here. I'm coming home from a job that you've provided for me. I'm going home to a home. I have a family that loves me, I have all this, or if someone has wronged you, just as we had talked about, pray for forgiveness. We've talked that previously. We need to persevere, because when we persevere, that's what builds character within us. That's what changes us into being the men and the women that really God has called us to be.
Yeah, it's it's kind of teaching that perseverance, which amplifies Philippians 4:13. What biblical principles can we see Mighty Ducks when it comes to teamwork and leadership?
Everyone has a part to play. It's different, but we need each other. You only have one goalie.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to play goalie because not everyone trains to be the goalie.
And sometimes goalie gets taken out of the game too.
Right. I like hockey, and I know you like hockey too.
Love
we both
hockey.
Really like hockey. You really only have one goalie. I mean, okay, you have backup goalie, but you know what I mean. At one point, you're not going to have your center or your left wing play goalie. Like, oh, I'm bored, I'm going to go play goalie. No. Look, you have your goalie who has their job, trains for their job. You have, on your line, you're going to have two defensemen. They train for their job. Right. They're not going to score as much, but they're going to, they know they're much better at skating backwards, much better on defense. Then you have your wings, you have your wings, you have your center that are more for attacking and everything. Yes, they can play defense. Yes, the defenders can, play offense. But the point is, Everyone has a part to play. And the Mighty Ducks show us that. You have to work together. You have to support each other. You win as a team, and you're going to lose as a team. And additionally, Coach Bombay's leadership transformation, again, of redemption and growth, just does wonders for us. It shows us that no matter where you are or where you've been, everyone can have a redemption story.
So, how can mentorship, like in Good Will Hunting, teach us about personal growth and healing? Now, before you answer that, I want to add, it is important you find the right mentor.
Yeah. And
find one that is above reproach, because if not, that mentor will lead you astray.
Yeah, absolutely. And in Good Will Hunting, we see that Will found Sean, his therapist, who really brought him back on the right path, helped him to see what he needed to see, to help him understand what he needed to understand. Will really needed that support, that supportive relationship, and again, with verses that we use, it reminds us that with guidance and encouragement, like you said, the proper guidance and encouragement, we can overcome our past and grow into our potential. God has great things for all of us. Unfortunately, we're not very good at seeing that.
Yeah.
And it takes someone else to come along to kind of open our eyes to see ourselves the way the Lord sees us.
Right. Forrest Gump, Mighty Ducks, Good Will Hunting, each presented unique but equally important perspectives on overcoming adversity and personal growth. They showed us that with resilience, support, and a willingness to grow, we can face our challenges and fulfill our potential, much like the teachings found in the Bible.
Yeah. So this week we want to challenge you to identify an area in your life where you need to overcome adversity or grow personally. Find a mentor, find a friend who's going to be supportive, who can be that person for you, and just take a step towards positive change. It may be a massive change, it may be taking a first step towards a massive change, or it might just be something simple.
Yeah.
Something very simple, something basic, maybe even putting it aside. Oh, I'll get to that one day. Well, let today or tomorrow or one day this upcoming week, let that be the day that you begin to do that. Just do something to take a step towards positive change, inspired by the values that we've talked about in these iconic movies and, biblical principles.
Well, thanks for joining us today on this inspirational journey. Next week, we're going to explore themes of courage and integrity.
Wonderful.
And how they align with Scripture. Until next time, I'm Steven.
And I'm Jason. Stay tuned and keep those 90's values and biblical principles alive.
And stay geeky, stay awesome, and Excelsior.